What you're about to hear is one of the most unbelievable moments ever to unfold in Judge Frank Caprio's courtroom. An 80-year-old Navy veteran shuffles in for unpaid parking tickets. On paper, it looks boring, routine, another old guy who fell behind on fines. But when the court finally discovers who this man really is, Judge Caprio does something that no judge in American history has ever done before. And I'm telling you right now, by the end of this story, you will not see parking tickets, veterans, or justice the same way again. Before we dive in, I want you to do something simple. Backhand index pointing right, comment right now where you're watching from. Drop your city and country below. Are you in New York, London, Karachi, Manila, Johannesburg, Sydney? Because this isn't just a courtroom story. It's a story about what kind of world we want to live in. And I want to see how far this man's legacy reaches. All right, let's step into the courtroom. It's a gray Wednesday morning in Providence Municipal Court. Fluorescent lights buzzing, people shifting on wooden benches. The morning docket is full. Expired registrations, red light violations, parking in the wrong spot. The everyday mess of city life. On the bench sits Judge Frank Caprio. If you've ever seen his clips online, you already know the vibe. Black robe, soft voice, and the kind of eyes that look through excuses. But never through people. He's not just here to punish. He's here to listen. Case after case moves quickly, a young mom who parked in a school zone. A delivery driver who ran a yellow that turned red too fast. People explain, Judge Caprio asks questions, sometimes laughs, sometimes forgives, sometimes reduces fines. Then at 10:22 a.m. the clerk calls the next case. Samuel Rivers. The courtroom doors open. An old man walks in, slowly, carefully. He's wearing a navy blue winter coat that's seen more winters than some people in the room have seen birthdays. His hair is thin and white, his cheeks are sunken but clean-shaven. In his right hand he holds a small cane. In his left hand, crumpled carefully, is a faded navy cap. This is Samuel "Sam" Rivers, 80 years old. He makes his way to the defendant's podium, each step thoughtful, as if he's measuring the distance. He doesn't slouch. He doesn't swagger. He stands the way only someone who's been trained to stand does. Back straight, shoulders square, eyes forward. The clerk begins. City of Providence versus Samuel Rivers. Multiple unpaid parking violations, totaling $1,327. Judge Caprio glances at the file in front of him, then up at Sam. Good morning, Mr. Rivers. Sam nods, voice steady but quiet. Good mornings, Your Honors. The clerk reads out the details. 10 tickets. Improper parking, restricted zones, no parking during certain hours. Almost all of them in the same area, outside the Veterans Administration Medical Center. On paper, it's simple. He parked where he shouldn't have. He didn't pay. Late fees piled up. Cut and dry. But if you know anything about Judge Caprio, you know he never stops at the paper. He looks at Sam, the date of birth, the notes in the margin. Mr. Rivers, he says, I see you have several unpaid parking tickets here. Do you understand what you're being charged with? Sam nods again. Yes, sir, I do. And how do you plead? Sam takes a breath. I don't dispute that I parked there, Your Honor. I'm guilty of the parking. I'm just not very good at being on time with the paying part. There's a ripple of quiet laughter in the courtroom, not cruel, just human. Judge Caprio cracks a small smile, but his eyes stay serious. Are you currently working, Mr. Rivers? Sam hesitates. Nights, Your Honors. Nights, Judge Caprio repeats. Yes, sir, I clean floors at a grocery store on Broad Street, a few hours, couple nights a week. Helps stretch the pension and Social Security. Keeps me moving too. 80 years old. Cleaning store floors at night. Standing in court over parking tickets. You can feel people in the gallery shifting, seeing him differently now. Judge Caprio glances down again at the file. These tickets, I see most of them were issued near the VA hospital. Is that where you were going? Sam's hand tightens slightly on the edge of the podium. Yes, Your Honor, the VA. For your own appointments, the judge asks. Sam looks up, then away, then back. Sometimes mine, sir, sometimes not. Now Judge Caprio feels the shift. He's heard thousands of excuses, stories, and half-truths. This doesn't sound like any of them. He sets his pen down. And if you've watched him, you know, that is the moment when the law takes a step back. And the person takes a step forward. Mr. Rivers, he says gently, I want to understand what was happening on those days. You were parking at the VA again and again. Why park in those restricted areas, and why let these tickets go unpaid for so long? Sam looks at his hands. They're trembling just a little, the way older hands sometimes do. He takes a breath that feels like it's pulling up decades of memories. With respect, Your Honor, I wasn't ignoring the letters. I just kept choosing to pay something else first. Judge Caprio leans in. Something else? Sam gives a small, almost embarrassed smile. Yes, sir. He doesn't elaborate. Not yet. The judge could move on. He could say, it doesn't matter, you broke the law, and hit him with the full fine. But instead, he asks, Mr. Rivers, did you serve in the military? For the first time, Sam's posture changes. He doesn't straighten by choice, his body does it for him. Training that never really leaves. Yes, Your Honor, United States Navy, Hospital Corpsman attached to the Marines, Da Nang, 1969. There's a subtle intake of breath in the courtroom. Most people there weren't alive in 1969. Did you see combat? Judge Caprio asks softly. Sam's eyes answer before his mouth does. Enough, sir. The judge nods, he's seen that answer before. He pauses, then glances over at the court clerk, who's been unusually quiet, hands folded, eyes fixed on Sam. And that's when things start to move in a direction nobody in that room was expecting. Judge Caprio's eyes linger on the clerk for a moment. You look like you want to say something, he tells him. The clerk clears his throat, almost nervous. Yes, Your Honor, if I may. Go ahead, the judge replies. The clerk reaches under the desk and pulls out a thin blue binder. It's not part of the usual case files. The cover is worn at the edges like it's been opened and closed hundreds of times. He holds it with a kind of care you'd usually reserve for a photo album. Your Honor, we know Mr. Rivers, but not from this docket. Now the courtroom really lines in. Even the people waiting for their own cases stop scrolling their phones. What do you mean? Judge Caprio asks. The clerk opens the binder, flipping through pages filled with handwritten notes and stamped payments. For about 11 years now, he begins, an anonymous person has been coming to the payment window. At first we thought it was a one-off, then it became a pattern. He glances at Sam, then back at the judge. He would ask, do you have any outstanding fines for veterans, especially older ones, or people who are clearly trying but just can't catch up? We'd print out whatever matched, overdue tickets, small municipal fines, stuff that was about to snowball into license suspensions or car impounds. The clerk turns another page. Then he would quietly pick a few and pay what he could. The courtroom is absolutely silent now. He always refused to give his name, the clerk continues. When we asked what to put on the payment note, he'd say, just write it under the Phantom Sailor. A soft, disbelieving laugh runs through the gallery. The Phantom Sailor, Judge Caprio repeats, a surprised smile tugging at his face. The clerk nods, then slowly raises his hand and points, straight at Sam. That's him, Your Honor. Mr. Samuel Rivers is the Phantom Sailor. Sam looks like a man who was hoping the ocean would keep his secrets forever, and suddenly finds the tide going out. He shakes his head slightly. It's not a big thing, he mumbles. Judge Caprio turns his full attention back to him. Mr. Rivers, is that true? Sam looks down for a moment, then up again. There's no point hiding it now. I just helped where I could, sir. For how long? The judge asks. Sam thinks. Since 2013, maybe 12. I lose track of the years, Your Honor, they run together sometimes. The clerk fills in the gap. Finance estimated it last year, Your Honor. Between all the small payments, partial payments, and full pay-offs, the Phantom Sailor has cleared more than $27,000 in fines for other people. Mostly veterans, some single parents, a few folks who just fell behind. A woman in the back row covers her mouth with her hand. One of the officers looks straight up at the ceiling, blinking fast. Judge Caprio looks back at Sam like he's seeing a different person entirely. Mr. Rivers, why didn't you ever tell us who you were? Sam shrugs, shoulders modest. Didn't see the point, sir. The fines aren't about me. They're about folks who are already barely hanging on. You miss one payment then another, then suddenly you're choosing between a ticket and groceries. He pauses. I knew guys from Vietnam and my boy knew guys from Iraq who never quite found their feet when they came home. You miss a shift because you can't drive. You lose the job. You can't pay rent, then it all goes. His voice gets quieter. I couldn't fix the wars, couldn't fix their heads. But if a stupid parking ticket was gonna be the first domino that knocked everything over, well, that was something I could stand in front of. He gives a tired little smile. So I stood, I guess. Judge Caprio nods slowly, letting the words settle. And your own tickets, he asks. These ones here, why didn't you pay these first? Sam glances at the stack of paper in front of the judge, his name on every page. I kept telling myself I'd catch up, he says honestly. Every time I had a little left over, I'd go down to the clerk's window, they'd pull up a list. I'd see a 72-year-old veteran about to lose his license over a few $100s, or a single mom with 3 kids who just needed her car to get to work. And I'd think, I'm old, I've made my peace, I can walk or take the bus, but them, they've still got people depending on them. So I picked theirs. He laughs softly, but you can hear the exhaustion in it. Eventually, like I said, the math caught up. You can feel people in that courtroom doing the math in their heads. This old man has spent 11 years bailing strangers out of holes they didn't know how to climb out of, while quietly digging one for himself. Judge Caprio leaves the bench. He stands up, walks down the small steps, and comes to stand just a few feet from Sam. The robe moves with him, but in this moment he looks less like a judge and more like an old friend having a hard conversation. Mr. Rivers, he says gently, I want to ask you something that's not on the record. Sam looks at him. Yes, sir. Do you ever feel tired, not just physically, tired of carrying everybody else's burden? Sam's eyes glisten for the first time. He takes his time answering. Every night, he admits, my knees hurt, my back hurts, sometimes my chest feels like it's full of wet sand, but then I think of the guys I served with who never made it to 30, let alone 80. I think of the families who will never see their sons or daughters walk through the door again. Compared to that, sweeping a few floors and paying a few fines doesn't feel like much. He looks down and adds quietly, and between you and me, Your Honor, helping those people, that's what keeps me from feeling like I don't belong here anymore. Still feels like I'm useful. He smiles weakly. Like I'm still on duty. If you're listening to this and your chest feels tight, it's not just you. In that courtroom, people are wiping their eyes. A young guy in a hoodie with his own ticket laughs once and shakes his head like, how do you even complain about your problems after that? Even one of the officers, who's used to keeping a stone face, has to look away for a second. Judge Caprio clears his throat. He walks back to the bench, but his steps are slower now. He picks up the blue binder from the clerk and flips through it. Line after lines. Paid in full, anonymous. Balance cleared, phantom sailor. No further action, donor request. He lets out a small breath. Mr. Rivers, he says, do you know how many people you've helped? Sam frowns, thinking. No, sir, I never asked, didn't feel like my business. The clerk speaks up again. We counted at least 320 individuals, Your Honor, and that's just what we could clearly link. Sometimes he'd quietly cover the remaining balance when someone had already made partial payments. 320 lives, nudged away from collapse by a stranger who then walked home alone. Judge Caprio closes the binder. He looks at Sam with a mixture of respect, sadness, and something else, responsibility. He knows what he's about to do isn't just about this man. It's about what kind of message this courtroom sends into the world. Judge Caprio places both hands on the bench and looks out over the courtroom. He doesn't speak right away. When he finally does, his voice is steady but heavier than before. Ladies and gentlemen, he begins, very often in this courtroom we see the worst of people. Carelessness, anger, dishonesty, but every once in a while we see the very best. He looks at Sam. Today is one of those days. He picks up the stack of tickets with Sam's name on them and holds them for a second. Mr. Rivers, the city of Providence says you owe $1,327 in fines and fees. The law gives me certain guidelines about what I can and cannot do in cases like this. He pauses, then sets the tickets down. The law talks about violations, it talks about penalties. It does not talk about 11 years of quiet mercy. His hand rests on the blue binder. It does not talk about showing up month after month to lift the weight off strangers' shoulders. It does not talk about the moral debt this city owes you for the way you have served its people, both in uniform and out of it. He takes a breath. So I'm going to say what the law does not. He turns fully to Sam. On the matter of the city of Providence versus Samuel Rivers, regarding all outstanding parking violations and associated fees, totaling $1,327. The courtroom leans forward. Every single one of those fines is hereby dismissed. For a moment there's silence, as if no one's sure they heard it right. Then the room erupts. People clap. A few stand up. Someone whistles softly. Even other defendants with their own problems cheer for the old man at the podium. Sam blinks like he's trying to make sure this is real. Your Honor, I never expected. Judge Caprio gently interrupts. I know you didn't, that's exactly why you deserve it. But he's not finished. He rests a hand on the blue binder again. This, he says, lifting it slightly, is 11 years of one man refusing to let strangers drown in bureaucracy. 11 years of someone quietly saying, not on my watch. He looks out over the room. I don't think it's right that all of that stays hidden in a binder under a desk. He turns to the clerk. From this day forward, this will be known officially as the Samuel Rivers Fund, the Phantom Sailor Fund. The clerk's eyes widen. Your Honors, we're going to formalize it, Judge Caprio continues. Anyone who wants to donate to help veterans and others who are genuinely trying to do the right thing but are drowning in fines will be able to contribute. And those funds will be used carefully and transparently to give people a second chance instead of a shove off the edge. He reaches into his robe, pulls out his personal checkbook, and begins writing. The camera catches the small tremor in his hand as he signs. And I'm making the first donation, he says, in honor of Mr. Rivers and every veteran who's ever sat in this courtroom wondering if anyone still cared. He tears out the check and hands it to the clerk. We'll make sure it's set up properly, but let this be clear. Mr. Rivers, from now on, when people talk about the Phantom Sailor, they will know exactly who he was. Sam's eyes fill with tears. Your Honor, he whispers, I was just trying to help. You did more than help, Judge Caprio replies. You built a lifeline, we're just making sure it doesn't end with you. If this was just a courtroom moment, it would already be unforgettable. But the world didn't let it end there. The clip of Judge Caprio dismissing Sam's fines and revealing the Phantom Sailor's identity hit the internet like a tidal wave. Within 24 hours, it had millions of views. People stitched it, reacted to it, translated it, cried over it. Comments poured in. My dad died alone with unpaid tickets. I wish someone like Sam had crossed his path. I'm a veteran in another state. I've missed court dates because I couldn't face it. This story gave me the courage to go back. How do we donate to the Phantom Sailor Fund? Within a week, donations to the Samuel Rivers Fund crossed $1 million. Not from corporations, not from governments. From ordinary people. $5 here, 20 there, 100 from someone who wrote. For the times I didn't help when I could have. Local news picked it up. Then national outlets. Then international ones. Veterans organizations reached out. Lawyers started asking why more courts didn't have hardship relief funds. Advocacy groups pushed for reforms. Within months, 2 different states drafted bills giving judges more flexibility to waive or convert fines for low-income veterans into community service or support programs, instead of turning them into lifetime burdens. They cited the Samuel Rivers story by name. All because an 80-year-old janitor decided years ago that if he couldn't stop wars, he could at least stop a parking ticket from ruining someone's life. And Sam, he didn't disappear. He still lives in a small apartment. He still wears his old Navy cap. He still walks carefully, leaning on his cane. But once a week, he takes the bus back to the same courthouse. Not as a defendant. Not as an anonymous donor. As something else. A quiet guardians. He sits in the back row watching. When a nervous veteran steps up to the podium, eyes darting around, unsure what to say, sometimes Judge Caprio will glance toward the back and nod. Sam will walk down the aisle and stand beside them. He'll whisper, "It's all right, just tell him the truth, we'll figure it out." He helps them understand the letters they've been ignoring, shows them how payment plans work, points them toward the VA office that actually answers the phone, tells them from one veteran to another that they are not alone. A reporter asked him once, "Mr. Rivers, how did it feel when the judge cleared your own fines?" Sam thought for a long moment. "Felt like I was finally allowed to stop holding my breath," he said. "Like somebody was saying, you did your part, let us carry you for a while." The reporter asked, "And why do you still come back here?" Sam smiled. "Because there's always another kid in uniform who's going to walk through that door one day, scared out of his mind over a stupid ticket. If I can stand next to him for 5 minutes and keep his life from unraveling, then I'm still doing my job." He tapped his chest. "Still on duty. Now I want to turn this back to you." Backhand index pointing, right? What's the most powerful act of kindness you've ever witnessed? Not a quote on Instagram, not a movie scene. A real moment, something you saw with your own eyes that changed how you see people. Tell that story in the comments. Because after hearing about Judge Caprio and Samuel Rivers, we all need more proof that these kinds of people still exist. If this story moved you, if you believe veterans deserve more than just words, if you believe nobody should lose everything over a small mistake they can't afford to fix, hit like on this video, share it with someone who feels like the world has forgotten them, and subscribe for more stories that remind us what's possible when compassion walks into the room. And remember, laws talk about what people do. Justice, real justice, looks at who they are. And sometimes when the moment is right, it chooses mercy. I'll see you in the next one.